tried to ruffle her curls. She wasn't a little girl anymore, and she didn't like it when he ruined her carefully designed hairstyles. "Never grow up," Charles said in a suddenly solemn tone. "I think it would break my heart." He walked back down the hallway to his chambers, leaving her alone once again. When she sought out Lord Kent down in the hall below, he was gone. Kent, Graham, and her mother had all vanished from view. With a sigh of disappointment, Ella wandered down into the library, where she retrieved a book on the history of Pompeii. The doomed city, consumed by fire and ash, always caught her attention when she needed a distraction. But she did not stay in the library to read. She instead went to the billiard room and curled up in a large leather armchair, facing the fireplace. The warmth of the fire kept the winter chill outside at bay. Charles had said that this chair had been their father's favourite. She wished she could remember him more clearly. All she could see of Guy Humphrey was a smiling man with blonde hair and grey eyes, who gazed down upon her from an oil portrait in the main gallery of their home. A man who looked much like Charles, but her memories of him were hazy. Sitting here in this chair, she felt connected to him, and yet she knew how silly that sounded. When she was younger, she'd often imagined he was sitting there with her in the chair, holding her with invisible arms. She'd outgrown such imaginative thoughts now, but she couldn't resist claiming the chair each night as she read. She opened her book, turning to the first page. Even though she had read this book twice already, a quarter of an hour later, as she nearly finished the first chapter, the door to the billiard room opened, and someone entered. Ella peeped around the back of the chair to see who it was, and froze when she realized it was Lord Kent. He was alone, and didn't know she was there. He walked over to the billiard table and placed his hands on the gleaming walnut frame of the table. Then his head dropped forward between his shoulders, and he let out a deep sigh. It was clear he had come here to be alone. Ella closed her book and tucked it into the seat as she held her breath. She couldn't escape the room without him noticing, and she could not remain here either, lest she disturb his solitude. Finally, she summoned her courage and coughed politely. Kent turned to face her, his blue eyes widening as he spotted her in the chair. "Oh, I beg your pardon. I thought I was alone." His face turned ruddy as he looked away. For a second Ella thought he'd been about to cry. Men didn't cry. At least, she'd never seen her brothers cry. No, that wasn't true. She remembered hazily Graham crying after their father died. That must be why Kent was upset. He had lost his parents recently. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you," she said, her heart racing as she left her chair and started toward the door. "Wait. No. Don't go. Perhaps I do need someone to be here with me." He chuckled dryly, and the sound tugged at her heart. She had the strangest urge to throw her arms about his chest and hug him, yet she didn't dare, as that would be highly improper. "We could play billiards," she suggested. Games often distracted her when she was feeling unhappy. "That is an excellent idea." He smiled broadly as he stacked the ivory balls on the table. Ella retrieved 2 billiard cues and handed him one. "You must be—" He tapped his chin, pretending to think before he spoke. "Ella, yes? Graham and Charles's younger sister?" She nodded eagerly. "I'm 15, she told him, then blushed, feeling silly about saying it so proudly. Only a child went around spouting her age. "That's a fine age. You're almost grown. In 3 years you'll be debuting for your first season." Kent's charming smile sent another flock of butterflies to her belly. Why did this man have such an effect on her? She'd met plenty of Graham's friends before tonight, and yet she'd never felt like this. "You're Graham's age, aren't you? 23.